Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to YoungMartin'sReels. Today's project is going to be this Zebco SE4, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to repair this reel. Mario sent me this reel. He didn't bring it. He actually sent this one, and he asked me to put a new handle on it. And I have acquired another handle for it, which I think will work just fine if I can get the rest of the reel fixed. And the problem that I have found with this Zebco reel is if you watch the handle right here, let's see if I can zoom in on it. Maybe you can see it better. Okay, when we're zoomed in, see how it wobbles around? Okay, and I believe what I'm hoping for is that when I get inside there, I'm going to find that there is a bushing inside there that's worn out, and that the case itself isn't used as a bushing. So I'm hoping it's got bushings in it and we'll be able to replace them. We'll see though. So let's give this thing a shot. Let's start off by taking the spool off. You simply push the top of the button, push it in and pull it off. That takes care of that. All right, so then once we've taken the spool off, we'll go ahead and take this handle off, and we'll work it from there. One little piece at a time, like Johnny Cash's Cadillac. All right, and let's look inside here and see what we got. Well, it looks like it's actually got roller bearings in it, and it looks like the roller bearings are worn out. Okay, maybe I'll have replacements for those. We'll see what I can do. All right, let's go ahead and take this screw out while we're here. Okay, and I'm going to leave the rest of this in place right now because this case will separate without taking that the rest of the way. So we're going to leave that there, and we're going to go ahead and remove the side plate off of this. I think we're going to have to bump up a size. Somebody's been into there, or either that or it came that way, but that's definitely a smaller screw, smaller headed screw on that rear. And it may just be that that's the way it was built. So we're going to put it back that way when we put it back together. Definitely a smaller screw. All right, we've got that off. We're going to take off the anti-reverse, so this has been either way. And let's see if we can remove this case, the side case. And we may need to remove this off the back first. Let's see if that's doable. That screw does not want to come out. We may have to leave that. We got another small screw here on the other side. Okay. Now let's see if we can separate. It looks like the case is going to separate all on its own at this point. There we go. Okay, now this has a bushing in it. And let's go ahead and pop that bushing out. Thought it was a bearing, but it's not. It's a bushing. Plastic bushing. And I think there's a possibility that I might have a bearing to replace that bushing with. We'll come back to that in a little bit. And in the meantime, let's go ahead, spin this around, and bring, there we go, that it's separated because I took the side case off. Let's go ahead and spin this around to bring this screw down to the bottom. Let's see if we can take this out. Nope. Okay, so we'll leave it in place, and we're going to take this screw out. Okay, that out. I believe that this is a side clip. Yep, lifts up. See how that works? Let me zoom in on that. Okay, see this? It's like a double C-clip. Okay, it's attached to each other, and it just slides right out like that. Okay, let's get a good look at it. Okay, and that's going to slide into slots on each side of this axle shaft, like that. Okay, and that's what holds that locked into place. All right, now let's see if we can take this out. There we go. There's our main gear out, and it has this anti-reverse spring in the middle of it that's supposed to fit. If you look carefully, you'll see this slot right here? Well, that's what your anti-reverse fits into, is that slot, and it'll make that work. Okay, the next thing we're going to try to take out is going to be this crosswind block, followed up by this gear. Okay. We're going to leave all that in there. Let's go ahead now and see if we can take this nut off. There we go. That wasn't even tight. Okay. We've removed the nut. Now we should be able to take the rotor off. There we go. The rotor is off. And that brings us down to this bearing, which there's a fair amount of play in that bearing as well. Okay, we're going to remove these 3 screws that hold the bearing locked in. Those 3 screws removed, we should be able to pull the bearing out the front. There we go. Now we've got the bearing, which looks kind of rough. Hopefully I'll be able to find one of those. We've got the anti-reverse assembly, which is on there, and it doesn't appear that it wants to budge. And it may originally have come off of there, but it's not coming off, it doesn't look like these days, without possibly damaging it. So we're going to leave that alone. And we're going to scrub it up as is. All right, so we got that. Yeah, definitely hope for a new bearing here. And let's compare that bearing to this sleeve. Nope, not the same at all. All right, and then there's going to be a bushing on the other side, just like the first one. Okay, so now we've got these 2 bushings, and they do not fit tightly anymore. See here? On the main gear. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean all this up and see if I've got some of these bearings. All right, one last thing we've got to try to do is try to take this rear drag apart. Let's see if we can get the screw out. And it's a plastic screw, so there was a possibility that it was going to break just trying to get it out. Okay, so here comes this big plastic screw. And hopefully this thing will unscrew off of here at that point, and it does. Okay, and if we look inside here, oh, we didn't need to zoom back in. Okay, we have got this funky clip thing. I don't like these at all, but they are they're doable. I just don't like them. Don't like how they fit, how they come apart. And we're going to hook into that clip. We're going to pull that clip up and out. We got to get it out on both sides, not just one. There we go. Clip comes out. Now, this insert should come out. And on top, sitting inside there, is the stack of drag washers. So let's go ahead and take those washers out. And they don't want to come out with that, so we're going to move over to this. Okay, we're going to do something a little less orthodox here. We're going to try tapping them out. There we go. There. Now the whole assembly came out. All right, and if we'll look, what we're going to see is that this goes like this. We're going to see this stack up, fits in here, like so. And what I've got here a drag washer stack that looks incomplete. Doesn't look like it's going to fit together properly. So let's take it out and take a look at it. We don't know the history of this reel, where it's been, what it's had to go through, what somebody might have done to try to make it a functional reel. But this is definitely corroded on. There we go. This washer did not want to come out. There we go. This is a keyed washer. It's keyed to match the inside right here. Okay, then there's a Teflon washer. Teflon, nylon, something similar. Okay, and then there's this keyed washer. Okay, so what we should have here, we should have a Teflon washer, then we've got the eared washer, followed up by another Teflon washer, like so, followed up by a keyed washer, followed up by another Teflon washer, followed up by another keyed washer, and then the rest of these, they simply have in there to fill the gap. So you could replace all these. It looks like, well, one of them is a wavy washer. Tension washer. See that one? Got two of them. You got two tension washers. Okay. See how they don't fit together? Yeah, those are tension washers. All right. And three tension washers. There's three tension washers there, and then one flat washer. Okay. So now we're going to go clean all this up and come back and see what we've got. All right, all the parts are nice and clean now. And I did a little investigating while I was off camera, and I went looking for some bearings to replace these bushings with, and I did find a set of bearings that would have worked and fit in there. The only problem is it's not the bushings that are worn out. If you put this bushing on, you see it rocks. Let's zoom in. Okay. Put this bushing on, see how it rocks on there? Well, the problem is you put the bearing on and the bearing rocks just like it. It's the shaft of the main gear that's actually worn, not the inside of the bushing. So putting a set of bushings in this, or new bearings in this, would not do it any good whatsoever. So, because the shaft would just ride on the inside of that bearing. So I'm going to leave the bushings in it. And we can still put the reel together, and it's still going to be a functional reel. It just, it's on its, let's call it its last hurrah. So we're going to put it back together and get it going. So, however, if you had one of these that had a good gear and you wished to replace those with bearings, these bearings that I have are 8 by 4 by 14, and I believe that they would have worked just fine, even though they don't have this shoulder. See this little shoulder that's in here? They don't have that, but I still think they would have worked. So anyway, I'm gonna put those back in my box, and we'll proceed on with putting this reel back together. We're gonna start off by putting this rear drag back in first, and that's gonna start off with this center hub right here. And what I'm going to do to make this easier to stack up is I'm going to set this onto the axle shaft like that, and it's going to have this front drag washer up front that it's going to ride on. Okay, then goes on top this Teflon washer right here, and I'll have to hold that little Teflon washer in place there. Okay, then it's going to go this eared washer like so, then another Teflon washer, followed up by the keyed washer. And this was the one I had so much difficulty getting to come off. And now that all the dirt's out of it, it goes right back on just fine. Then goes the Teflon washer. Then goes the second eared washer. Now these two eared washers have got to line up like that because they're going to go into slots inside here. See these two slots on here? Well, those ears have got to slide into those slots. Okay, then you're going to have these three tension washers, and they go on like so. And these have already been cupped kind of, so they're going to kind of go fit in that direction, and that's going to be followed up by this solid steel washer. And then I'm going to take all of this back off the axle shaft and flip the axle shaft back around to the other side and slide it on like so, and use that as an insertion tool to insert all of this back into the case right here. Remember, these two ears have got to slide into these two slots. That's what they're going to do. Okay, slide it all the way in like so. Get it to stay in place while we take the axle out. Give it a little tap here and there. There we go. And then in goes this tensioner or adjuster. And now this piece here I think is stretched out just a little bit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to squeeze it in just a tad, like so, to add a little bit of tension to it. And then we'll hook one in one side, and then the other one will slide around and pop in on the other side into the slot like that. There we go. And now it's all back in and held in place by this spring. With that done, we can come back and screw this end cap back on, and it won't hurt if you wish to put a little bit of oil on the threads here. This is plastic on plastic. It really shouldn't need it, but it never hurts to have a little lubrication on this knob. Okay, screw it down. You hear it start to click. That's that spring we just put in there. Screw it down. Okay, then we're going to follow that up with this big plastic screw in the back. Okay, and we're going to back it back out, make it as loose as possible, like so. And that way, we should be able to turn it any which way we need to as we go about reassembling the reel. Okay, and that should slide in there like so. And there we go. That axle will turn inside there until we tighten down the drag. As we tighten that down, that puts tension on that axle and it won't turn. Okay, so loosen it back up. We've got that part done. Before we put anything else back in here, we're going to put a couple drops of oil on the anti-reverse here. And we're going to put some as it slides through the case right here. I'm going to put a little on there. Now we can flip that back and forth, like so. All right. And we're ready to reassemble our front main gear. Now, in the case of the front main gear, I did have a good bearing. This bearing was shot, and it still would have worked, but I had a bearing, and I decided that this one was worthy of my time. So it goes on here like so. It's a sealed bearing, and it hopefully will help bring a little more life to this reel. All right, we're going to slide that in. Pinion gear goes back, but before we do that, let's go ahead and grease the pinion gear. And I believe I forgot to clean the inside of this pinion, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. All right, now go ahead and slip your pinion back in like so, and let's put these 4 big screws back in that hold the bearing. we go. And if we flip that in, let's see, one way or the other, there we go, there's our anti-reverse. Okay, when we flip this lever the other way, it keeps that from being able to do it. It no longer will lock. So let's flip it back. We'll leave it in that unlocked position for now. And here's one of our bushings. We're going to put that bushing down in there. And it's got these two little tabs. See these tabs right here? Yeah, there's one on each side. Those have to fit into slots inside the case. So we've got to fit that down in there and get those aligned so that they fall with that little tab into the case like that. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and put the other one in the other side of the case. That way we don't have to worry about it later. Okay, so both bushings are reinstalled. Now we're going to take our crosswind gear and grease it front, back, and air all the teeth. With that done, we're going to set, it's almost done. We're going to go ahead and set it down inside the case with the post to the rear. And then we're going to go ahead and grease the front. At that point, we're going to put a dollop of grease down inside. Hey, you like that? Chris, you like that word, dollop? Okay, we're going to put that inside the crosswind block and a little bit on there. And then we'll sit that back down inside like so. With that done, it's time to put this gear back in. Now, this gear's got a window right here. I don't know how well you can see it, but if you look carefully inside that window right there, can you see the little wire? Okay, that window is provided for you to be able to fit that wire into that slot right there. So that's what we're going to do. But first, we've got to go ahead and grease up this gear. Now, don't lose these shims on the backside. And in order to make sure that these stay, we're going to put some grease on the backside here. And we're going to put a little grease on this side over here. Since these posts have worn, they're going to need a little extra lubrication. Okay, now make sure your pin right here, that pin, make sure it is under the window, so that when you go to sit this in, you can look inside it and see that that goes into that window, or that little notch right there in the anti-reverse. Okay, here we go. So far I'm missing, there we go, that's in. Now, I can hold that in place. All right, and it's working. Okay. And we'll go ahead and reverse this around to bring this crosswind block back to the rear. Okay, we're going to pause for a moment and go back to this rotor because I haven't cleaned it yet. I always tend to do that. I set them over to the side and I never remember to come back and clean them before we go to put everything back together. So we're going to pause for a minute and we're going to scrub this up and get it clean. All right, the rotor's clean now. And we are still, though, going to take apart this bail, but we're not going to do it until we've got the reel back together. So we're going to, let's go ahead and do it. Let's get it done. Okay, we're going to start. This particular type of bail is very difficult to do because you have to try to get these E-clips out on the inside. It's so much better when they've got a screw on the outside that you can take off. But let's see what we can do. If you take these E-clips and rotate them around to where the open side of them is along the back side of the curve, like that. I don't know how well you can see that. zoom in like so. Okay. See, the back side of the E-clip is to the bottom right here. And with that, like that, there will leave enough room to pop this E-clip off. If you don't put it in there that way, it doesn't have enough room to come out. I knew better than to do it. There it is. Okay. I almost lost the E-clip. It popped loose. And it took a lot of force to get it out. And once I did, what it did is this popped back because it appears that this bail is sprung somewhat. There we go. And that's not too bad. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up. I don't recommend you do this. The best way for most people to clean this is to scrub it up, but there's always somebody who takes it apart. And if I don't show you how to put it back together, somebody will always send me an email saying, I took mine apart and I can't put it back together. Can you show me how to do it? Well, guess what? This reel doesn't belong to me. It's going back to Mario. So I wouldn't be able to come back and show you later. So I'm going to go ahead and take this the rest of the way apart. And we're going to clean it up like so. All right, and this piece here is spring-loaded right here. You know, they're not heavily spring-loaded, but it is spring-loaded. And we'll take that out. And we'll take the spring out. And this plastic piece, they kind of get stuck in the little hole there. There we go. And I'm going to scrub all these pieces real quick. And we'll see if we can put all this back together. And we'll take that rotor apart on that side. This side over here feels good. It feels clean. And if you look, I'm going to take this off because it doesn't require anything extra. Okay, pop this out. There is a spring in here. Oh, and that spring is sprung. Okay, no, it's not. This is your lift. So we are going to have to pull this side apart. That's gritty in there. We're going to have to take it apart, clean this. Get that out of there. All right, I didn't want to. We're going to take both sides apart. Remember what I said about moving that opening over around, and then hook your screwdriver on the back side of it. Man, it's in there tight. Feels like it hasn't budged in a long time. Okay, so let's go to the other side of it and see if we can pop it off across the front. This one's kind of rusty on one side. Okay, and that was just dirty. All right, we'll pop that out. And now that's going to allow us to pop this piece out, spring and all. Be careful with the spring because it's going to try to shoot out of there. There's the spring. It's a little coil spring. Now these I like to put onto a safety pin like this until I'm ready to put it back so they don't get lost, because they're very tiny and they're easy to lose. All right, now we're going to scrub all this out. This piece here will slide out at this point. There, like that. Oh yeah, thing's full of sand. All right, we're going to scrub these pieces and I'll be right back to you. All right, one last part to pull apart is this roller on this bail. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. And that way we can assemble this easier by putting this bail arm on first and then coming back and assembling the wire. Okay. All right. I'm just going to leave this screwed on here right now. We'll take it the rest of the way apart in a few minutes after we get the rest of this scrubbed clean. Let's get this bail arm scrubbed first, though. Okay. All right, all the sand is removed and it's clean. So let's go ahead and see if we can put this part back on. This is our bail trip, our bail assembly, bail arm. And it's going to go over here so that it can rotate right here. And hopefully it's all going to go back together like it's supposed to. Okay, so we're going to start off with this piece right here. I've gotten all the sand and grit that I could get out of this thing out. Okay, we're going to put some grease down inside here where the spring rides, like so, and a little bit in here where the pivot rides. Okay, now remember this black piece right here. Let's zoom in just a little bit, make this a little bit easier to see, as long as I keep it in camera. Okay, this post right here is going to go into that hole right there, like that. Okay, once that's done, this piece is going to go into the end of the spring, like so. And then it comes down and just drops into the slot, like that. Pretty simple, right? And this assembly is going to come over here. It's going to drop in like this, like so that it can turn and rotate that piece down. Okay? But to do that, it's going to need its pin in. That's going to be this pin right here. That pin goes in right here through the bail arm, and it should go into the hole and line up right there. Now this post right here that's sticking up has got to fit into this hole right here. So we're going to set this back in place like so, and we'll get that arm riding in that hole. Gotta find the hole first. There we go. Come on. Okay, looks like it's going to be easier to not have the pin in first. Okay, so align this with this one. Get the hole lined up with the arm. Okay, there we go. Now we can put the pin in. Hold the pin in place, and now we got to go back to the other side while that pin is in and put this stupid E-clip back on. Okay, like so. I'm going to cover it with my thumb so that if it pops off, there we go. All right. All right, and that would have been great, except I didn't have the side cover on. So let's put this back into the post hole right here. Like so. And let's get the side cover back on. That's going to be this one. Okay, it fits like that. And there should be one screw holding it in place. All right, now, there you go. That's one side. Now, remember this other side, and I haven't cleaned this side up yet. But this one has the post built into it. One moment. All right, now we've got this side cleaned up, and it's going to fit in on this side over here, like so. And then it rotates like this. But now what's going to hold it is going to be this bar. And this bar design, a lot of people, I think Chris has got one, a reel that's ruined because this bar snapped right here at this angle and he's got no way of replacing it because there's no replacements available. Somewhere I've got one that's broken like that also. So make sure it's well lubricated so that it doesn't get any excessive tension on it, and then drop it down in the hole like that. Now, what's going to keep it pushed back up this way is going to be that little spring. It's sitting over here on this. Okay, we're going to take that spring, we're going to stick it into this hole that's over here, like so, and then we're going to pull it back. I use a screwdriver usually, and get it to go down inside like that. And now when this activates, it's going to pull down, and you got to, like the other piece, you've got to have that sidebar on to hold that spring in place. I was trying to show you how it worked, and about sent the spring sailing. Fortunately, I had a finger over it. Okay, spring is in the hole. Now we're going to put this side plate back on. Okay. We have one screw that holds it on. And now we'll set this piece back in, and as it trips, it should push that piece down. It goes in this direction right here. Like so. Okay. Okay, you can see here that the bar is moving, it's locking in and out, and when this is operating, it moves the bar. See the bar? Back and forth. Okay, so we'll set that in place, and what do we have to put in? An E-clip. Set that E-clip in. Thumb over it. There we go. And that brings us back to this. Okay, and now we look at this bail, and we see that it's not quite lined up. So what we're going to do is bend it ever so slightly to bring it in just a little bit. There. Okay. And we'll take out this screw. Pull this washer over here, and now if you look, here's the parts for it. And again, we've got dirt that needs to come out. All right, let's clean the inside where that fits through. And we've got a brass washer on the inside of this that may or may not come out. Nope, That's not going to come out. All right, I'll leave it in. But we'll go ahead at this point and put a little grease on the inside, and we'll put a little oil on the shaft like so. So when this sits on here, it can rotate. Now it's seen better days, like everything else on this reel. Okay, and now we'll bring this back around, set it into the face of the gear. We're going to set this washer on the screw, like so. And zoom this back out a little bit now. And we're going to slide that screw in. Get it into the center post. And let's tighten it down. Okay. Check the roller. Does the roller turn? This does not feel good. I'm looking for a quick snap bail. I'm not looking for something that will work. I want it to work well. Okay. That part feels great. This part feels gritty, like it's got dirt in it still. Okay, I encountered this before on a pin reel. All right, if you notice, see how this comes up and it's pretty much in line, but if you look, when it gets over here, it ends up being misaligned right across the end. And what that does is when this tightens down, it pulls this piece in like this and creates a tension. So what I'm going to do is see if we can reshape this bail just a little bit and see what I can do about that. Okay, bend it out like that. Here, like so. Okay, so that when we do align, it's not this crisscross alignment thing. Okay, and we still need to bring it over just a little bit more. All right, let's try putting the screw back in and see if that's a little better. Hang on. We're missing my washer. There he is. Okay. Here's the washer. Okay. There we go. Much better. All right. Now we'll reinstall the rotor back on, and remember you got these flat spots here, and we've got to get those lined up in the rotor like so. There we go. And we're going to reinstall the lockdown nut. Okay, let's hold that down. All right, that's good. Now we're going to reinstall the axle assembly by oiling it. We'll slip that in to the pinion. And we need to get the there we go. Spin that around and get our crosswind block back down to the bottom. There we go. Put that in. Have it go through. Now we've got to get it to go through the crosswind block. It started in the crosswind block. Now let's straighten it up. Like so. There we go. Now we've got to get it to go into the rear drag assembly. There we go. And now we've got those two slots. Remember that I showed you earlier, where those two slots are on the axle shaft. And we're going to take this double C clip that we took out before. We're going to slip that on like so, and then rotate it over, and we're ready to put our crosswind block locking screw back into place. Next to go on is going to be our side plate. We're going to put a little grease inside the bushing. And we'll slip it in and back just a little bit. And it should all align. I think you're going to have to get the back to go in first to go up underneath that nut or knob, and then the whole thing will drop down. All right, we have a screw left to put in on the top up here to lock the locking nut down. On top of the rotor. It should keep that from backing off and getting loose. And now we would be putting this handle on, but I have a different handle for Mario. Don't know what it's from, but it was in the vast pile of reel handles that I had. And it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough to fit. Okay, so it goes in. Stand by. Found another piece I haven't cleaned. All right, there was a lot of dirt and fuzz up inside this, so removed it. I'll go ahead, attach this handle. And it's still gonna have that wobble because the main gear is just, the shafts on the main gear are just worn. Okay, tighten it down. See? But, does it work? Oh yeah. Can he go catch fish with it? Can he catch redfish with it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he can. So, all right. Mario, I'm going to leave it to you to change the line on this. There we go. And let's see. I hate lining left-handed, but that's the way this reel is. That's the way Mario wants it set up. Okay. I have the worst time in the world trying to wind left-handed or right-handed. Okay. Anti-reverse work. Yep. And there it goes. But see how much play there is in this? It's because those gears are moving in there. It's not the handle. The handle's tight. If you try to push the handle in and out, it's that gear moving on that. Which is why I was only willing to put one bearing in this reel. I wasn't willing to change out the two ends because it wasn't going to do it any good. All right, so there you are. The Zebco SE4. Mario, it's on its last leg, brother. But I bet you could still catch a few redfish with it. As many of my long-term subscribers can attest, anytime I screw something up, I'm quick to admit it. And this is one of those cases. The other handle that I had on here, remember when I was winding and tried to anti-reverse, it would just seemed to really act weird. I took it back apart and looked at it, and what had happened is that handle actually had a 4.75 millimeter shaft on it instead of the 5 millimeter shaft as far as diameter goes. And so I went back through my many thousands of reels handles, and I found this one. It fits it better. It's a 5 millimeter, and it does what it's supposed to do. By the way, we also did not check the drag before, so right now we still got our drag clicker. It's working fine. Let's go ahead and tighten the drag up now. And there we go. Nice tight drag. Let's see if we can make it so that, no, I can't quite get it to where I can't twist it, but it's pretty tight anyway. When you're not using the reel, always try to put it back into a low drag mode to help save on your washers. All right, so there you have it. That Zebco SE4 and rear drag reel, anti-reverse, works, does what it's supposed to do. It's interesting, you've got anti-reverse in this position or this position. Either one of those two gives you anti-reverse. The middle position is your non-anti-reverse. So there you have it. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Tell me what you didn't like about it. For now, that's Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, signing out.